person to person, loving exchange. Queen Kunti's messages. The Bhagavatam, manifestation of this message from Bhagavad Gita. The Gita's values are Bhagavatam's values, naturally. And the Bhagavatam is taking historical events and illustrating the precept that's in Bhagavad Gita. So Queen Kunti's prayer and Prabhupada's explanation of her prayers, how to have a soul-to-soul relationship. It's with Krishna at the center, and an obstacle for a soul-to-soul relationship is the identification with the body as the self, myself and the other person, identification with the body. And we have bodies, for sure, and there's some affection for the well-being of the body of another, for sure, and that's not to be nullified. Prabhupada explains, you're dead. It's not a sign of life. Come on in. Come on. Come forward, please, because we want people to be able to see the screen. So, there's all kinds of, what's in it for me, kind of motivations or perks, if not the motivation. There's a mode of goodness feeling, to feel good about oneself, that is there in relationships that are what people, this is me speaking, what people today call spiritual, what people today call, this is my perspective, what people today call spiritual because they don't know what spiritual is something that approaches the mode of goodness. And the people then in the mode of goodness, there's a happiness in the mode of goodness, and there's a contentment that comes from sacrificing for others. You feel good about yourself. And we all know what that mode of goodness feeling is. And it's not the same as a transcendental feeling. It's not the same as preeti. So mode of goodness is unusual in the modern age, and transcendence is more than unusual in the modern age. That's the Gita's value, so that's what's being expressed here. It's in Kunti's prayers, it's in Prabhupada's teachings. I really like it. It's chapter 10, Canto 7, where he says, please don't ask me. He knows, he's already been asked. Please take some benediction. Please don't ask me to take some benediction. Because a servant simply wants to serve the master without wanting something from the master. And the master should not give something to the servant with the idea, this is not Lord Rishingadev's idea, but with the idea that I'll get a nice follower or followers if I give things to my followers. So exchanges of love, they're exchanges without the expectation of something in return. Certainly there's something in return. It's a little bit like the role play that we did about feedback, room for improvement kind of feedback, or compliments and some appreciation for another devotee and their service and who they are, etc. And transcendental position is it's special, it's rare. But when there's preeti, one knows how to engage in those exchanges. And it's so, an instrument for the eternal welfare of the other person, and you know who the other person is. The eternal welfare of the other person is not the body. We may do something, we often do something, for the welfare of the body and the mind of another person. When that service is done in any relationship, the idea is the consciousness behind that activity is for the eternal welfare of the other person, to connect the soul of that other person to Krishna. Free from all temporary identities, one sees himself or herself as a spirit soul, part and parcel of their source. Consistently striving to act from this place gives unwavering satisfaction. Acting from that source implied is the source is to be pleased. And when that source is to be pleased as your consciousness, and you're striving like that, you become satisfied. And there isn't another satisfaction that's lasting. Being self-realized, they take on or up the path of bhakti yoga and try to connect everyone to their real self in this way, seeing all equally as spirit, soul. So this priti quality or value connects with samadarshana, and then the other ones, etc., etc. It's just the mature stage. That it's the resting, preliminary, foundational value is to know who you are as the spirit soul. Consistently trying to see everyone equally in connection with their source, striving to serve them in that consciousness, awakens genuine love. And curtain draws back. There's a key down in the bottom right. There's the lock up in the upper left. And from Bhagavad Gita, here's Krishna's explanation. Such a person is Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma, dear to everyone, because of their service mood, like the 6 Goswamis, right? Vishuddhatma, a soul with purified intelligence. Vijitatma, one who is self-controlled. Jitendriya, one who has conquered his senses. Bhagavad Gita. So these are qualities that you can say resting upon values, like we, going back to the beginning. Knowledge is qualities, and when one has realized or assimilated the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, they have naturally these qualities. It's such a nice purport. Bhagavad Gita is such a nice book. Such a nice purport. Of all those qualities, there's a principal one, or Swarup Lakshana. And what's that one?
Krishna.
Who knows the Sanskrit?
Krishna Eka Sharana.
Huh?
Krishna Eka Sharana.
That's Rupa Goswami's. What's from that Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, text 8? Rupa Goswami is not doing creative writing. It's taken from Bhagavad Gita, but it's in the language of Bhagavad Gita. Mai Chananya Yogini Bhaktir Abhyavichalini. Krishna Eka Sharana. Ananya Bhakti. undivided devotion. That's the principal characteristic, and all other characteristics follow the principal one. They're tatastha lakshana, marginal. Krishna ekasharana. And then Prabhupada writes, to get that one, principal one, there's another one. That's the doorway to get to that one. What's that other value or quality?
Acharya Upasana.
Acharya Upasana. And the language of Rupa Goswami, Acharya Upasana. Guru Padashraya. So the teaching is there, and then bring the teaching insight to bring the transformation besides just learning some Bhagavad Gita slokas. You get an A in your Bhakti Shastri exam. You want to go beyond that to this. And a person who has that preeti quality like described, way back in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is describing how to receive that love or preeti so that we can give it to others. That's a good question. Preeti or love comes from bhakti or devotional practice, service to Namaprabhu and to Gita's message. And that's our last slide. So now we have our application exercise. There's not role play skits. Are there, yes or no?
There's a couple. What it said is there were 5 reflections, and then it was to invite whoever wants to illustrate those reflections. So I did have two groups.
Okay. Would you like some skits? There's some time. I want to make sure we have time for this. Let's do this and then do the skits, because I want to make sure we have time for this. Okay, it's writing time. With your paper or your phone or whatever you like. I don't have to say it, you can just read it. And 7:28. So we'll take 8 minutes or so. Does anyone need a reminder of what the Gita values are, the 6 of them? Do you have your paper, or you want to see it on the screen? You want to see it on the screen. I can't show 2 images at once, so I can show this, because I think people will want to keep looking back at this to make their action plan. So pull out your paper if you want to look at what the Gita values are. Or ask your neighbor if you do it.
Fourth, fifth.
Acharya.
Okay, third.
Third is humility. Yummy.
Slides. Okay,
Aina ko photo mo.
fifth.
Choice, picture.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't planned. When I asked him what's the 7 days supposed to be, he's like, just understand. Because it's Friday. Because we didn't tour on Monday. No, it's the whole presentation. Yeah.
Does anyone need more time? Okay. How about this? Those of you that are needing more time, take more time. And those of you that don't need more time, we can do this number 4. Unless somebody's uncomfortable with sharing what your action plan is. So those of you that are not needing time, take some time to discuss with someone.
No sense of these things for me, so. I said no sense of these things for me, so. For the Samadarshana principle, I've been thinking I want to go out to Shimshana. Because I notice how it centers me into that space of seeing people and so this was a nice prompt to do that. I've been telling myself, yeah, I'm going to start doing that once a week for at least 2 hours. Because also I've experienced I need to go out for a certain block of time, and then you're just forced to get into that mood if you don't wait. If you don't give yourself that time, then you're going to go out of it. But if I'm out there for 2-3 hours, I'm forced to surrender to that Samadarshana space. So I do that once a week. For 15. Something that my mom did really well was write. I'm sorry, I didn't even know. Yeah, I just can't by memory. I'm used to it. Pretty. My mom was very good about writing letters and thank you notes and things. And even to her last days, Mr. Prabhupada was translating Bhagavatam, my mother was writing thank you notes to her last breath. So it's something I always admired about her. Srila Prabhupada herself ran moving my letters to something very special and personal in my life. So I want to write a few letters. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, just people. People in my life. Maybe a thank you note, maybe something more practical. But just sending, yeah, that act of sending a physical letter. There's some. Now I have it. Just to prove humility. I've gotten off of my 30 pages of Bhagavatam every day. Except for about 3-4 weeks, I haven't been doing it every day like I used to. And when I read Bhagavatam every day, I'm relieved of a lot of falsehood and pretense. So coming out of that practice. The developing choice, staying diligent with this being creative, continuing with that because I find it very helpful for getting some perspective.
And then also with the
Acharya principle, being more systematic in writing and sharing, something that I'm intentional about now. And so I have a few writing a series that I've done, just short little anecdotal things, but a series that would contextualize things better for people. Because I've been encouraged to write, but I also noticed
whatever
that
nature of the interaction,
I could make it a little more practical, so to speak. So, yeah, right, being diligent, intentional about that in my writing. And so for a long time, I've been wanting to stay away from commercial dairy. It's something back and forth. My weakness, I haven't been able to, because I also get very kind of, if I don't have dairy, I get stressed by that, starts to get a headache. So my plan was, there's this nice devotee in Hawaii who has a pretty good, has a dairy going, and I would get some ghee from him and kind of ration myself 2 tablespoons of ghee a day to mix in and kind of soothe my system's need for the cow products, and at the same time then be able to stay away from the other things. So finally do that. Thankfully I thought about these are all, I just related to all the things in my head I've been telling myself I should do.
situation, we don't know what they need and their feelings about situations.
The more
From
likely.
coming from insurance kids.
No, interesting.
Why is it, in my opinion,
Please pray for me that I can even one of these. If I did, I would be very excited.
maybe they are coming from something that
If I executed on any one of these, I would be very happy. All 6 of them.
All right, so that's
All right, well, okay. That would be my first one I'd send in, just to get it out of the way. I did it.
I did.
it's just like more of my information and contributions.
one area of life, one relationship, or one part of the day's work. So
Specifically in Java.
Yesterday's choice, Monday, specific area of life, relationship, or
It's a lot.
I guess one area of life is in terms of reaching into day-to-day activities. Like morning activities, and routines in the morning. Whether I'm humble or not,
Increasing
in the process of where I am to like being nice, being consistent, I'm not the super
As opposed to like spirit and concern.
Those girls grow to
Right.
and at first they will be
steady
we trust in Krishna and God and a lot of times spiritual answer Krishna is things that I don't know knowledge of if you have an opportunity to experience expectations, then you know you're not the worst skills by your own strength, you're not taking but in the and that way you give space to see Krishna's hand. That's the part otherwise the then I can easily figure out to do work because I'm so
It's interesting.
I was going to ask which one do you think you'll have the hardest time?
That's the most my application was I can do so.
Yeah, you can wiggle out.
and then he takes practice.
The rest of the day can be having.
Then he takes practice. Then he chants like
All their blessings upon you for this.
because he likes to chant the way to work. Otherwise, when he's in the car, he likes to
Time to wrap up. I'm thinking another minute or two, and then if you still want to talk, we can do so after the role play skit. A minute or two, keep going, because we'll cut off.
He's coming to me. He comes on the he comes to last 2 weeks. He's talked about it twice. Maybe I'll ask him again. I don't keeps coming, or we elect
And then, no, I don't think in one of his classes yesterday, it was like, you should always try to get
He said it doesn't work. I'll ask him. And Josh is wondering out. He said today.
It's not
But
really.
to us, he said maybe today. We won't know for sure until
That's what it is,
So we can do the kind of
Anyway, this first one was also.
Hare Rama, Hare So now we're ready for some fun.
Thank you. Okay, so we have, what we're going to do is I'm going to read out 5 reflections. These are just like a sentence, and they're reflections around this value of Preeti. And I'd like us all to, take a moment to think about these reflections. And afterwards, part of the exercise was to invite someone up to illustrate any one of these 5 reflections that, if they were inspired by anyone. But we've already pre-planned who's going to come up to do the skits. So, but first, we can all take a moment to individually listen to these reflections and just think about what we've learned over these last 6 days, and particularly focusing on the last value of Preeti, our love. So we can feel free to close your eyes, get in a comfortable position, whatever helps you to sort of hear and train your thoughts. So the first reflection is, the love you give pursues you.
Say it again.
The love you give pursues you. The next reflection is, the people you love are usually the ones that hurt you more because they trust you to not walk out on them. I'll say it one more time. The people you love are usually the ones that hurt you more because they trust you to not walk out on them. The next one is, some people are so poor that the only thing they have is money. Some people are so poor that the only thing they have is money. There is not enough love in this world. We are a movement of love. We should only give love out in the world. There is not enough love in this world. We are a movement of love. We should only give love out in the world. And this is our last reflection. If I loved myself, I wouldn't need the other person to be an extension of myself. If I loved myself, I wouldn't need the other person to be an extension of myself. So I'd like us to close our thoughts here. And I request you to keep these with you, whatever thoughts you had shared just now. And I'd like to now invite, I don't know, is anybody inspired to go first? Either Harish Prabhu or the Madhur Prabhu and Siddhari Prabhu. Okay, Harish Prabhu. So Harish Prabhu is going to illustrate one of these, and I believe he picked "Some people are so poor," right? That one?
Yeah.
Yes. So he picked the reflection that says, "Some people are so poor that the only thing they have is money." So Harish Prabhu will illustrate this creatively.
These are really interesting scripts. I can't wait.
Rasamrita calling Harish to ask for some expert advice.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, long time. How have you been?
Good, Harish. I have been spending some time with my girlfriend lately. We got engaged last week. I didn't see you there. I was hoping that you would come. Even our teachers came and gave their blessings.
Oh, sorry Prabhu. I had to take few clients out to dinner so that they would invest in my business. I'm just starting out and time is money, right?
That's okay. Anyways, I wanted to get some advice from you as to where I could invest some of my savings.
Harish explains possible areas.
Thanks a lot, Harish. You have been a great help. Come home sometime, we'll have dinner.
Sure, that's totally possible. I'll come sometime. See you later.
5 years later.
Hi Harish, how have you been?
I've been doing great. I'm making $5,000 profit every month.
Wow, that's great. I've been making about the same from the past many years. So have you retired now?
No, Prabhu. There are a lot of things to chase. Maintenance, upkeep, investments, so much work.
What happened to that marriage proposal?
Nah, I didn't want to waste my time having a family. Money can buy all my happiness. It's been working great so far. Oh, did I tell you? I was featured in the New York Times recently.
Wow, that's great. Delighted to know that you're doing well. Last summer I was with my family in New York. We had a great time. We did a lot of community service also. My children were especially happy, serving elders. We felt really happy serving people.
Wow, that sounds different. I feel very happy when others serve me. Services are getting expensive these days. How are things otherwise?
Well, I lost my job and have been searching for a new one for some time now. My son just joined school and I'm happy taking care of him that way.
Sorry to hear that. But you sound undisturbed. In fact, happy. How's that?
Well, it's a corporate world. These are not big events in life. I trust that it is Krishna's mercy that I had a job. Now he has other plans. It's my faith and trust in Krishna that keeps me moving.
Krishna? Faith? Yeah, okay. These are times emergency funds come in handy. You should have taken my advice when I gave you a few years ago.
Actually, I did. I always listen to wise people. That's what keeping me afloat now. You're very wise in some areas. Anyways, we should catch up for dinner sometime this year.
I know. But sure, that's totally possible. I'll come sometime. See you later. Service? Faith? God? What's happened to this guy? He lost his job, his security in life, yet he sounds happy. He has children to feed, yet he's confident. Man, I had to go for therapy for months after my first business failed. The amount of time I wasted running behind those clients, I wish no one ever knows about those embarrassing moments. Hello, John. Oh yeah, let's talk about your investments.
30 years later.
30?
Harish became even more successful in the eyes of the world. He retired as a multimillionaire and appointed people to run his business. Rasamrita had a grandson and decided to join a senior living home with his wife. He built his wealth of relationships helping and serving people. Harish also decided to retire and incidentally join the same senior living facility. He got a room that faced the lake and also covered the driveway. Every week, Harish noticed an elderly couple waving goodbye to some visitors who came to visit the couple during the weekends and sometimes even during the week. On one Sunday evening, he decided to take a stroll. He sees a car come into the driveway, drop off the same elderly couple, their grandson kissing them goodbye and promising to meet them on Friday again. On a closer look,
Hey, Prabhu, is that you?
Wow, Harish, what a pleasant surprise. How have you been?
Harish's face turns sorrowful. Rasamrita Prabhu feels something is wrong.
It is so nice to see you. Why don't you come have dinner with us today? My wife is an excellent cook.
Harish nods head and walks with them.
Thank you for dinner. I can't remember those countless times when you invited me and I never prioritized it. How have you been?
Better than what I deserve, I guess. I had a great weekend. I didn't want to trouble my son, so we got ourselves into assisted living. I read scriptures every day and listen to transcendental music. Thanks to all the training during my younger age, I spent a couple of hours meditating, which helps me be watchful of my ignorant desires. At times, my wife and I, along with our other friends, would go to theaters, watch movies. I love the real butter on the popcorn. I enjoy reading stories for my grandson, and we go for some service every day at the nearby temple. Life is a lot of fun. So many people around us are nice. Such caring people, I must say. How have you been? Why do you look upset?
I'm feeling very lonely. I have all this money I want to go enjoy. I want to go places, but I can't walk more than 15 minutes without losing breath. I want to play instruments, but my fingers are trembling. I have many houses, but no family. I have many cars, but no one to visit. I have many caretakers, but no one calls me dad or granddad. I paid my employees good salaries. I've made many people rich, yet no one comes to see me. Even the documents I sign are over email. There are people who read magazines and talk about me, but they do not know me. I thought money will take care of me, but it looks like I gave my entire life to take care of money. I feel lonely. I am rich, yes, but it is evident that I'm the richest poor man. How is it that even though I have millions, I'm not as happy as you are?
Harish, money is important in life, but that's not everything. It is essential for survival, but not the essence of survival. I had some difficulties for sure. I lost my job. My wife fell ill. At one point we had fights every other day. My son had poor grades in school for some years. But it was all an opportunity to connect with people and most importantly, connect with Krishna and see Krishna's loving hand in these trials. Krishna loves each of us and provides us somehow. I have seen it. You have lived an exceptional life, but Krishna's loving hand is no exception. Even in your current situation, things will get better. Just trust in Krishna.
Very good. Oh, that was amazing. So I'll just open it up to any reflections and comments on this really nice little skit. I think this script was written by yourself, right? Harish Prabhu wrote this. Actually, I asked him, like, I don't know, one day I asked him in the morning, and like a few hours later he's like, I've got a whole script written out, I'm ready to do this. He was just in the moment, and he just wrote this really nice script. So any comments, reflections? You want to share what churned in your hearts watching this? All three of you raised your hands at the same time. There's the mic.
Oh, I'm first. I like the point Harish Prabhu made, that he said that I was wanting money to take care of me, but I spent my whole life taking care of money. So actually he's just become entangled in that desire of it taking care of him, but it's been the other way around.
Yeah, that was an impactful line. Both of you raised your hands in the back. Sudhir Prabhu and Amit.
Yeah, I just felt that Harish part was really disturbing and could give ideas to have a deeper reflection of long-term goals and how much money is enough.
Can you say why it was disturbing? Exactly.
Well, I feel like I feel the time that should be devoted to towards relationships in today's fast-moving world, it's hard to keep up. It's hard to maintain relationships. So that kind of gives like where you end up basically by seeing him.
Yeah.
If you don't give time to relationships.
Yeah, it's scary, right? Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
So when Rasamrita Prabhu was inviting Harish Prabhu for dinner, he said that many times, I'll come, but he did not make it for many years. So the important takeaway for me is to prioritize what my priority, looking within my spiritual life, what my priorities are. And if something is, I'm not doing something, then it is more that I'm not giving top priority to it. It's not very important for me. So that's more of an internal reflection exercise for me. And the other thing is short-term happiness and long-term happiness. We see that in Rasamrita Prabhu's case, he was more of thinking, going in
the right way and thinking about the long-term happiness straight. And whereas in Harish Prabhu's case, it was more of the short-term happiness. But he realized that at the end of, towards the end of his life.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for sharing that. You wanted to add something?
I appreciated the poetics at the end there when you were using some synecdoche, that the car is not the people that you would go see with the car, and the home doesn't bring the family, although that is oftentimes what we spend our time trying to develop is the resources rather than the relationships. So I liked how you connected those misunderstandings and misapplications in that poetic way.
Nice. Thank you.
Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have the next, yeah, we're running out of time here, but next role play, the amount of prisoners. Okay. I'll use mine.
Let me say. Yours fine. No, it's okay. And you sit there.
Yeah, I wasn't so happy with the result of the cricket match either. Okay, hold on. I gotta go make the offering. Now let me make sure that Sita knows I'm coming for lunch. Yeah, who would say to me? Okay, good. Hi, Bo. One second. Should be sitting down. Hi, Bo. Yes. Hey, Dale, you're here. Sit back down and ignore me. Hi, Bo. Hey, Prabhu.
One second,
I'm here.
cricket match is going on. One second. He's about to get a hat trick. One second. Oh, yeah.
I think you'd invited me over for lunch.
Did I? Let me check your messages. Oh, maybe I did.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a week ago.
Oh, don't worry. I lost some in my fridge, in the freezer. I'll throw it in the microwave and give it to you like 2 minutes. One second.
That's okay. I think, actually, I've got some service I gotta do back at the temple. Thank you, though. Krishna, I'm so sorry for ignoring you all these years and not taking your service seriously. It's such a privilege to be able to connect with you in those ways that I've taken it for granted. And I promise in the future and today also, I'll try to be more attentive to this opportunity that you've given me. Now the guests should be coming in because I've said a lot already.
Can I come to the temple?
You're already inside.
Oh, okay.
Welcome. Is it your first time?
No.
You've come before.
Oh, no, not to this time.
My actors are they've only had 2 things to do and they don't have both of them. Welcome, your first time in the temple. I'm so happy you're here. Please come sit down and let me take care of you in a very affectionate, attentive way. Thank you. Scene. I go to temple every day. I can't say no. You had one line.
Thank you very much for that entertaining skit. I think the messages were good. So does anybody have any like immediate reflections they want to throw out there from this little exchange?
I'm sorry, but the last part, I just couldn't hear because of all the laughter.
So I'll explain what I understood and then you can just, so in the last part, he was, he had just had this exchange where he felt ignored by somebody else and he realized that he was ignoring Krishna all this time. So he had that realization, and then this guest arrives and he made sure that he gave this guest full attention and didn't ignore him. And I think what Prabhu was meant to say is that it was his first time at the temple. And so, this is how you greet someone who's here for the first time. Try to make them feel welcome and comfortable in a new environment. That's what I understood. I think that was what he was saying. So, any reflections real quick, because we're running out. Yes, Mataji wants to say something.
So one of the things that I was reflecting from just this small incident is that the saying that the way you do anything is the way you do everything, or the way, So it's, if I'm ignoring Krishna, that's very much evident in all my relationship, and it doesn't matter how close and far, in fact the closest one, the person entering in, how am I treating that person, has everything to say about how I treat Krishna.
Very nice. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that out.
That was a nice, could you say the first line again? How we treat anyone is how we treat everyone? Is that what you said?
The way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Okay, okay.
All right, if there are no immediate reflections, I think we'll...
Can anyone guess the principle we were illustrating of the 5?
I think I don't even remember, actually.
The love that you give is love follows you.
Pursues
you.
The love you give pursues you.
Pursues you.
Thanks. Okay. Thank you guys for being volunteering to put these on and preparing for them. Raj, any closing thoughts?
On this one, I have a closing thought on
Everything.
number 5.
Okay. Shall I read that one out? Because maybe everyone doesn't remember.
Okay.
So the 5th reflection was, if I loved myself, I wouldn't need the other person to be an extension of myself.
When I hear this love myself thing, I get uncomfortable. Because, two things, at least. One is, Prabhupada makes it very clear, bhakti requires 2. The object of love and the abode of love. That's Rupa Goswami's teachings. And so, it's a kind of, whatever it is, new age or impersonal or narcissism, self-love. It's popular, it's out there in the world today. Self-worth is one thing, but self-love, love is a relationship. It's impersonal, at least. And I have a problem with the term, self-love. So, when we had our youth group in Mukunda and Shruti organized something like 50 teenagers came from all over the place. And that was one of the topics they wanted to address, and I brought up the same issue, that I have a problem with the term. Self-worth, no problem. So, and here's why. So, just connecting this with, the needs, and it's my responsibility to know what my needs are and have a strategy for fulfilling it. That's this nonviolent communication or empathic communication. as well as trying to understand the needs of another and assist the other in ways that's meaningful, but not like carry that person or whatever the other terminology is, that I'm an extension of them, or my existence is to fulfill their needs. So there's lots of do nots, but we're whole beings, like Isha Upanishad teaches us, and there's an intrinsic worth within each one of us. It helps people, my experience is it helps people who have a depression tendency to remind them of their self-worth. But I don't, to go beyond that and say self-love, my skin goes like, wait a minute here. It's New Agey, it's impersonal. So I cringe a little bit with that language. Now, that's not the intention of the language. I understand the intention, but I'm concerned about the language because it leads to, or is derived from, impersonalism. New Age spirituality, self-worth. Yeah.
Would it, because I'm just thinking about the rest of the presentations, there were things like self-acceptance or self-care.
Yeah.
But, so those make sense in a personal sense.
Yes.
But the love is because
It's
it needs
two.
to. Mhm.
Yeah.
So it could be maybe.
Just change the language, that's all. Sorry for the sour note at the end. I have a concern, just expanding on that, I have a concern when doing things like this, when we're not just taking, disciplic succession terminology and language, we're extending to other sources of whatever it is, wisdom, or taking something that helps us apply the Bhagavad Gita's teachings and understand them and exercise them in our lives. We have to be really careful that we're not going away from the principle of faith and disciplic succession and maintaining that connection. We can take wisdom from all kinds of places. That's a Paramahansa's capacity. Just some appreciation on this particular note. Jiva Goswami, one of my superheroes in Krishna consciousness, he does it all the time. He takes gold from a filthy place. Radhika Raman shared that Jiva Goswami could have written 7 Sandarbhas, like Brahman, because there's Paramatma and Bhagavan, so he could have written Brahman Sandarbha, but somewhere he expressed, Shankaracharya's already done a good job, so I don't need to do it. No, that's not what Brahman really is, but so in his Bhakti Sandarbha, he draws gold from Patanjali, that his conclusion is impersonalism. But he draws a definition from Patanjali Yoga Sutras of what abhyasa is or sadhana is. But he's like, but he's not getting contaminated by doing that. And we are not Paramahamsas, so we have to be really vigilant. They're just some sharing. I'm cautious when making reference, just like I did last night, to Viktor Frankl and Brene Brown, sources that are other than her, to specific succession sources. That someone that's not, on the one hand and on the other hand, there's the newer audiences appreciate, hey, these people have an open mind. But they may get the wrong idea, hey, you can take knowledge from any place. So that's a risk, along with helping people feel more comfortable and understand the principle better. And, your people are broad-minded, you're not narrow-minded, you're not in a shell over there, the Krishna shell people. There's a trade-off with doing that type of thing. This has a lot of that in it, this whole presentation. But the design of it initially is by the Oxford Project people is for new people to understand Gita values, and then the explanation of it is according for new people. So there's a certain comfort zone that says we're not, we're broad-minded people. We understand principles and we're discussing principles. Anyway, that's like, sorry for the rant about caution. You want to add something?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Go ahead. You got the floor.
Yes, Maharaj. Maharaj, I wanted to ask you about the depression or people who are autistic or with little faults. Many are resorting to medication.
Many other what?
Many are resorting to medications.
Yeah, okay.
So, how could we convince anybody not to take, there are other alternatives. What are your thoughts on...
I'm not clear what your question is. What are the thoughts on what? Advising people don't go into impersonal meditation?
No, medication.
Medication.
Medications, when anybody is depressed or, people who are autistic,
I don't know much about autism, so I can't comment on it.
Okay.
But
Or
with depression, it's a little bit, this is me, not like any, this is just my take on whether to advise people against allopathic treatment of something.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that cascading thing from Bhagavad Gita, contemplation of the object of the senses, attachment, so emotion, and then obsession, and then destructive behavior. So, depending upon how deep someone has gone in that place of darkness, such a person, I know some people that are in that really dark place, and clinically, their clinical examination shows they can hurt themselves and other people. They have hurt themselves and other people because of the darkness that they've gone to. Now, there's like bipolar people that are like, so such people may need medication because they hurt themselves and other people. They don't even know that they're hurting other people or themselves when they're in that dark place. So such people may need medication. But it's not like, okay, go to somebody and get something because... So it depends on the degree, and then depending upon, the strength of their devotional practice or the capacity to take to devotional practice, then that's what's going to clear the obstacle, not the tablet.
Yes.
Medication. But some people I know, it's like it's probably a lifelong requirement. Not even if they have sadhana, just individual dependent. It's a little bit. What I'm saying is a little bit like Ikshvaku's advice, could you lean that way? Ikshvaku's advice when it comes to counseling. He gives an example of he and his brother going to rescue somebody drowning in the sea, and they nearly drowned because the man panicked and pushed them down, and they almost drowned too. So be very careful when you're doing counseling to know what your limits are. And when somebody's really needing professional help. But, it's not like somebody's got a problem, so we send them to a person for professional help. It's a question of degree of the person and our capacity. So some persons may need a jump start with something. Like besides depression medication, there's other medications. Antibiotic. Some persons refuse and some persons take it like it's, ice cream. So in some cases, it's needed. And some persons just refuse and just let nature run its course.
Yes.
So part of it is the degree. There's three, and in response, there's three things. What's your capacity? What's their capacity? What's the degree of their situation? Like I said, their capacity, their faith. Some people say, I have just faith in bhakti, and they're hurting themselves and other people. Or their physical condition becomes deteriorated because I don't want to go to a doctor, I'm like a Christian Scientist. God will heal me. I just have to do my sadhana better. The spiritual solution takes care of everything. And it's not that it's wrong. The spiritual solution will take care of everything. Still, by God's arrangement, along with sadhana, there's doctors. And we go to doctors for medical problems, and etc. So, and Western doctors, may prescribe things that wouldn't be so advisable. You need surgery, or you need this tablet, or there's other remedies that are systemic and natural. So, depends. So the summary, it's now 8:32. I've learned a lot. This is, as I shared at the beginning, this is my 5th time going through this, and it's kind of been refined and as we've gone along through these 5 times. I think it's a very valuable gift that the Oxford Project folks have given, and if the tools that we have available as educators is not just information oriented but transformation oriented. We take 6 Gita values. Look what we did with it. The same of how to carry the message of Krishna consciousness into our lives and the lives of those who we're interacting with. There's a lot of power in Gita's message when you take it to heart, take it inside, and try to take it inside and try to help understand how to take it inside and live it and express it. So with all of this, the application part is perhaps the most important. I mean, there are things, I'm sure, for myself at least, there are things that are parts of this that are not front burner for me right now, but they'll kind of, the message will fade to some degree, but there's some elements that will come back stronger again later. So, and then application of those elements because of the appropriateness. Application of what we hear is where progress is made. And of course, application is not just a mechanical application. There's the connection to Krishna, that the source of the Bhagavad Gita, and then the Bhagavad Gita's message is not different than Krishna, and taking that message of Krishna inside is taking Krishna inside. So it strengthens our Krishna connection and we live it. So trying to live it helps make the Krishna connection stronger, especially when we recognize what we're doing. It's not a mechanical, it's a transformational effort. So those are just some thoughts. Wrapping up. I hope you're not all completely exhausted from long drives to come from Ypsilanti to over here every day. And Farmington Hills as well. So, glad to spend this time. Let's see, going forward in time, maybe there'll be some other opportunity to do some kind of seminar, but it's up to Krishna. And I think the inspiration of how much you apply, you're going to have something to do with the Krishna factor that is out there somewhere for all of us. Thank you very much.